crypto market still has the fear inside it. We can actually see how things are evolving, but understand that macro levels are important to look at. Right now, you are already dropped 10% to the downside, just Bitcoin. And if you are looking at that clearly, you will actually on a macro see that this level where we are right now is a macro support. Fine. Now, what if that drops? How will that impact XRP? We are inside this bull flag, but what if Bitcoin is dropping to the next level of support here, close to 20,000? What will XRP do? Where is the macro level of resistance and support? The resistance is this trend line for the time being, which is rejecting the price each and every time we get close to that. Now we are dropping back to the moving average here, and after that we have 0.325 as a macro support. Will that hold? What are the odds for XRP maintaining this level and breaking higher, which is going to be an important task, because understand not all assets are above a macro support. This is XLM, which is usually highly correlated with XRP. But if you look at this clearly, you can actually see that it is below a macro resistance. And the price just got a bearish checkmate pattern. It got rejected, right? If it looks like a bull flag, great, and then it gets rejected from there instead of going higher, now that does not look good. Now you need to get supported by the moving average. At least that will show you like, okay, people do consider this as being in a bull market, so they buy in the dips close to the 21-day moving average. And if that's not the case, you will see a lot of different assets inside this industry getting hit. But what's the reality of it? Right? We are looking at this on a zoomed in view, which is literally our hourly chart. So right now, if you are plotting this, what we can observe is that the price is really making a channel, which is descending channel. And usually, historically, descending channels break back to the upside. But again, we don't have too much room to say, okay, that's super bullish. It's just going to be a retest first here and then the retest of this broken level. Now, if that happens, some of these alts are actually going to run. Agreed. You're already watching some of these alts taking off, slowly bouncing back to a new level, reaching back to the level it was before. Like HBAR, it's a fundamental asset and it's doing what we want to see in XRP right now. But we are watching HBAR doing that. That's not only HBAR. There are other assets which are actually participating in this right now, which is important to look at. So we're going to discuss through all this and then jump on the fundamental side of it, which is getting interesting, because understand this information is from the US, which is the biggest economy in the world. And this recent information shows you the troubling times are coming. But fundamentals do matter, and we do understand how it is moving forward. So the reason for being fundamentally strong on XRP is fine, but these kind of human beings comes in without any idea of how things are evolving. XRP Crypto Wolf actually put that into clear perspective. Now we're going to discuss all this today. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Now, we should agree with this perspective, right? We had FTX, we had Celsius, we had Luna, we had 3AC, a lot of bankruptcies, frauds, which actually happened within that geographical region which he is supposed to protect. And what he's exactly doing right now is trying to protect those who are safe by putting them in danger. That looks great, right? Being a professor, this guy, one of the biggest issue, academics should be academics. They're coming into the financial world where real people invest. That literally is troubling, because, this is not an academic stuff. This is literally the real life. That's one of the reasons why you actually see most of these millionaires, billionaires are college dropouts. That's an entirely different topic to discuss through. But if you're interested in that idea too, now you can come on to this channel where we discuss how you become successful in life. Now, anyway, jumping back into the market, this is what we are observing on Bitcoin on the short-term narrative. So as we take a step back and look at it on a 4-hour chart, we are like, okay, this still has a huge momentum to the downside. So even if we bounce back up to 22,000, we still have a ton of resistance. One of which would be this wick here, which is like close to $22,000. Agreed. Now, the next one is going to be this level. Fine. Now, that is the macro perspective, which we are going into, right? Here, as you bounce, you get a short-term resistance. Fine. But when we take that into the macro, we see like, okay, if we are bouncing from here and going towards 22,000, it's showing you that the price came to a macro level and it's bouncing off from there. 1. 2, look at the RSI. From 2022 June, we've been trending about this. Now, with the FTX, we did have a wick to the downside. Now, that's how the market works. The panic actually comes in and pushes through this, right? It actually flushes a lot of orders to the sky. Now, in this perspective, we are right now here. We did not actually see this level of panic in the market. And we are trying to round back up, which is on a daily chart, right? So you actually go zoom in to see like what's happening. So here the context is you really want to see, is it really rounding off? And if it is, then you want to actually focus on the idea that can it reach the previous level. Now it's trending completely to the downside, right? Each time it's actually coming down, puts in a support. If you look at this, this is a support. It breaks through that support, come back up, test that support and get rejected. Again, you put in the bottom, you go down, you break that, you come back, retest that level and get rejected. Now, this is going to be an important part. If you see the price coming back to this and getting rejected, that's going to be a bad news. But if we break to the upside, now that gives us some hope. So for that, the primary thing which we have to look at is go to a 4-hour chart. Because we need to first understand, are we at least starting to break back higher on the smaller time horizon and then zoom out. So one thing we can do is either start from a 30-minute chart or an hourly chart to see what the hell is happening there and then realize, okay, this is just short-term volatility or it's slowly changing to the macro. Fine. Now here on the 30 minutes, it's purely volatile. There is no certain great information which you can take from this, except from the fact that this is now slowly trending to the upside, where it is showing you a possible channel, which usually breaks to the downside. That's not a positive news. But when we jump onto our hourly chart, we actually get to see like, okay, we were actually trending down, putting in consistent lower lows, but then it changed. We are putting in higher lows and we are trying to make higher highs. That is actually a positive news on the hourly chart. Now, why is that? You see the price got resisted here, the strength level. And if you extend that, you see next time that was a support. That's positive. Now we go on a 2-hour chart to see how things are evolving there. One of the things which we need to understand is as you zoom out, the information you see gets clearer, meaning the noise gets reduced. So it's important to understand that if you're looking at a 30 minutes or hourly, that's going to be really hard. But as you zoom out, you get better clarity. Now you again see the same information, you are putting in lower lows, and then now you're trying to break through this level. Now this is what I was talking. On a daily, we want to see this happening. Right now on a 2-hour, that's happening, which is a positive news. That's actually good. We are trying to push through this one, which is great. Now, if we break through this, that's really positive. Why? Because at that point, what's RSI showing you is a possible inverse head and shoulder, which can break to the upside. So it's going to be a good information. Now we jump onto the 4-hour. We literally want to see that the price put in this one and this level. So if we break back above this, at this time you'll see the 2-hour chart breaking through. Fine. Now what's the trend looking like? If you actually put in this trend line, this is kind of the trend which we are doing right now. The market is kind of moving inside this. So it is fair, in my opinion, to say we are going to bounce back to the upside. So the strength can actually go back higher. Now, what do that mean for XRP on a 12-hour chart? Because this is now important. As soon as you go on to a 12-hour chart, now that kind of becomes close to the macro reality, right? Now, when we draw this, now why is this so important? Because right now, the market is exactly following the Bitcoin, majority of the asset. Some of them, yeah, they are breaking through. They have their own fundamentals, and what's happening, the market is kind of realizing. And that's where this is really sad, right? XRP is one of the best fundamental asset in the market, and it's not reacting. Why? We know what's happening in the US, right? Now, on the macro, we just saw that we broke this to the downside, but we are holding on to this level of support, which is actually a great thing to observe. Like, we are holding on to this level. Fine. Now, if we get back into this pattern, now something changed, right? You actually got this steepening here, and if we are breaking that to the upside, which is positive, usually we call that as a falling wedge, and usually that breaks to the upside. Here we got that break to the downside, which is negative. Now, again, we zoom out all the way onto a daily, and we notice this. We are right now looking at a daily saying we are close to the level of a support. Great. So on a daily, till the daily, now we get some kind of information. But as soon as you go on to a 3-day chart, it shows you like we have a long way to the downside, to the macro level of support. Now, the trend line support is going to be different because now you have this level acting as a base or the support, which when extended goes through this level. Now, there will be certain noise in the market. So when you try to connect this, you kind of get a level close to this. Now we are breaking that to the downside, which is not a good news. Sometime back when we were looking at this, it was still above, but right now I'm surprised to see that's breaking to the downside, because that actually means on a 3-day horizon, now we can come down to this level. What does that mean? Last time when you were there in terms of the RSI, the strength, the price, the least it was close to this level. So 18 is what 3-day RSI is showing you if you are looking at that perspective, right? Now, yes, that's one view which the market actually suggests to you, that it can come to 18,500 or at least wick down to that level and still keep the 19,000, 20,000 support. But this month, we still have 20 days to go. So what we really want to see is the price closing above a monthly level. For us, on Bitcoin, that means this, 20,500. So if we are able to keep the price above that level and close it there, most likely what we are going to see is a continuation pattern, which looks something like this. Is it scary on the shorter time horizon? Yes, it is. Because when you look at the top to the corrective bottom here, that was like 19% to the downside. Right now in the market, what we have seen is just 10%. So we have more to the downside in that perspective, and we can still be in the bull market bursting through just after that. Now we got that information. Clear, fine. So how does this actually go in for XRP? That's going to be one of the important factor which we have to discuss. Because right now we are showing that the price can get rejected to the downside, 0.33. If you remember, we talked about this scenario from some time. On the macro charts, it is showing you that we can come low to this range. Now, that's a macro level we have been respecting for a very long period of time. Agreed. But what we don't want to see is a bad news coming from the SEC court when we are close to that support. That is going to hurt us for sure. That's not going to be a bad thing to watch. A lot of us holding this asset will get, in that carnage, and we really don't want that to happen. But what we want to see right now is the price bouncing from this moving average and breaking through this level. But for that, the scenario we talked here, Bitcoin hitting that support and bouncing back, that need to happen. So if we look at this realistically and say like, okay, Bitcoin dropped 10% during this time and XRP did around 6.5, we would actually have to say like, okay, we do a 65% correction compared to Bitcoin. So what does that mean? If Bitcoin is about to do a 20% correction, then we are looking for at least 13%. So somewhere close to this level, 0.35. that will still be a decent level of correction considering how much the market as a whole is correcting lower. Fine. Now do understand the Bitcoin dominance is showing us that it is bouncing. And this bounce can actually hit this level and slowly come back down, which is good news for the entire altcoin market. But understand, if these are the assets where you are in, this is going to be a troubling part, because for us to go heavy or say this is bullish, we should be above 60 in the RSI. In reality, right now, when you go on a daily chart for XRP, we are watching that the RSI is close to 42. It's below the neutral level. Being frank, above 50 is what we consider as great perspective. But we have seen for XRP, whenever we are getting momentum, we are always above 60. So for XRP, being above 60 is golden. And even if you actually go on a 3-day chart, you'll notice that close to 60 on a 3-day chart is when XRP goes parabolic, when you're breaking through that level, right? At least on that time horizon. Now, yes, obviously you can go on a weekly to see what's happening below that scale, and still it is showing you 60, which is like a golden rule for XRP. Now, for different assets, it would be different, but as we spoke recently, XRP and XLM tend to be highly correlated. And if that's what the market is showing us, I believe it's going to be really important to look at all these different assets in the market, or at least go through and look at different assets inside your portfolio to understand where it is right now. We are actually going through a long session of Ask for TA, where you guys ask what you are looking at in different assets, and then I go through those assets and give you the perspective like, okay, whether that's below a macro resistance or above that. Some of these assets are above that resistance even after the SEC case, which is actually positive for those. And that's one of the main reason why we see when the market dropped 40%, these assets drop 20. So we get the narrative. When the market's going to bounce, they're going to bounce harder. So that being said, always first go towards at least a 4-hour chart. Look for what's happening right now and the price action. If you see a lot of bearishness, okay, close that window. Don't leverage. In this case, if you are massively leveraged and you're closing in your liquidation point, that's going to hurt you. And if you know your support level is above your level of liquidation and you still have an average true range to the downside, then you may have some peace. But do understand, crypto market does things like this. So even now we are in leverage trades and we are like watching through the supports. That's one of the reasons why we are primarily looking at these and understanding like, okay, almost all the assets we are in, we are above support. We have clear level of support just below the price. So most likely we're going to see a bounce in these assets as soon as Bitcoin does a retest. Now that retest can still be a continuation pattern pushing back the price to 20,000. We don't know. But what we would like to see is that we break back from here. If that happens, that's going to be great. And if you are looking into this to understand like, okay, these are how the market is reacting and these are how different assets are showing the odds, whether they are going to get hammered or they are going to pump more. And if you're interested in those, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So guys, that's it for today. And if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I'll meet you on the next video. Bye-bye.